déglu ma xamal la ni jar na ko xibaar bi ma la andil Covid-19 mooy korona virus lépp la àdduna li ma jaaxal nag ci moom mooy xàmmeewul bu rek baatoo la tax docteur yi ci àdduna ñoom ñëpp a jóg nañu ànd ak ñun ngir yéexi leen ba jàngoro ji jóg fii ci suñu askan wi.
Hello and welcome back on the COVID Gambia platform. As usual, we'll just give a few minutes to our followers to join this live before we can start updating and discussing. I hope my sound is good. We will allow people to join before we start updating and discussing about the current COVID-19 situation in the country. Thank you for joining. We'll just give a few more seconds to allow people to join. And then we start the discussion. We will start as usual with the updates of the figures of the day received from the Health Ministry. And then we'll proceed with just some few more topics that are necessary to mention. Okay. So we just allow a little bit more people to join and then we start. I hope my sound is okay and that you're hearing me clearly. Okay, I'm just told that the sound is okay. Thank you. Okay, we'll just allow 2-3 more seconds. We'll just allow more people to join and then we start with the presentation of the figures of the day. Right. Okay. All right. So just to introduce this platform, as we always do at the beginning of each live, this is the COVID Gambia platform. It's a platform that has been created by concerned Gambians who are professionals in IT and communication, and as our contribution towards the fight of this COVID-19 in the Gambia, we just decided to introduce this platform to share reliable, verified information with the public and also engage in general discussion regarding the situation of the COVID in the country. So we try to come live every 2 or 3 days after gathering enough information. We just try to come and present to the public and also also allow people to ask their question. And if we have the answers, obviously, we just answer. Otherwise, we just go back to the right authorities and try to gather all the necessary answers to come and present it to the public. So this is what we've been doing for the past couple of weeks, almost months, I want to say. And as we are going, we are receiving more and more demands from people asking us to keep on updating because this is one platform that has quite a lot of resources in terms of information and that some people really rely on to acquire information regarding the COVID-19 in the country. Okay. So we'll start with announcing the figures of the day that we have received from the Health Ministry, if you will just allow me. Okay, so according to the 129th COVID report that was issued by the Health Ministry, there is 54 new positive cases in the country. Adding to that, making it a total of 2,797. This is the total figures of the COVID COVID-19 positive cases in the country from the beginning of the pandemic to date. The figures that have been announced today in the report that has been received today states that there are 54 new positive cases. And there is 3 new deaths linked to this COVID-19 also, as it is reported in this report. 3 new COVID-19 related deaths recorded, and 1,958 people are in treatment or self-isolation as we speak, okay? We still have about 44 people more or less in quarantine, and about 105 people have been discharged from the treatment centers, meaning that they have recovered. Okay, so those are the figures of the day that we've been received from the health. We've been receiving from the health ministry, and the report, as the health ministry states it, is 2 days behind in terms of reporting the figures. So these are the figures of day before yesterday, somehow, so to say. So we're expecting yesterday's figures and today's figures most likely tomorrow. We'll move on to some information that we've been gathering. So seems as if there's a training currently going on for the healthcare workers of the Serekunda hospital. The purpose of this training is to build the capacity of the health workers of the Serekunda hospital. If you remember, sometime last week, a couple of days ago, we had mentioned that there was an announcement made by the authorities about the Serekunda hospital going to be turned into a COVID-19 treatment center. So this is, the process is actually on, meaning that the fact that some of these personnel, some of these staff are currently undergoing a training is towards the process of turning the Serekunda hospital into a COVID-19 treatment center. If you recall, we had also mentioned that there's some few processes to follow before this initiative can happen, actually, meaning that there's lots of details that need to be taken care of before the Serekunda hospital can finally be turned into a COVID-19 treatment center. There is the issue of oxygen and respiratory machines and all that. All those things were mentioned by the authorities, meaning that and actually it was by the director of the Serekunda hospital, Dr. Mane, who mentioned the fact that the process is on, but it's not something that is going to happen instantly, as it requires lots of modalities before this initiative of turning the Serekunda hospital into a full COVID-19 treatment center can happen. So the process is on. The treatment, the training, I want to say, the training of the medical personnel is currently going on, and by that they hope to actually build on the capacity of some of these staff that will actually diagnose and treat the COVID-19 patients. So they need to be equipped properly before being able to conduct such operations. So this is what is currently going on at the moment. Okay. So on another note, you also have the authorities, the Gambia government, who has announced that the tourist season is going to be held as usual in October. There is no changes in that regard. It usually happens in the month of October, and this year again, despite the fact that we have the COVID-19 in our midst, the tourist season is maintained for the month of October. So obviously there's going to be some strict health and safety guidelines shared with the hotel managers and restaurant owners. I'm sure that the general public will also be informed about all those measures, because as we all know, COVID-19 requires lots of adjustments in every sphere. So the hotel industry and the restaurants who are going to be receiving those tourists need to really adjust accordingly. When it comes to arrival, we know that any passenger arriving in the Gambia has to have a COVID-19 test of at least 72, less than 72 hours to show that they have tested negative the 3 days before their arrival in the Gambia. The issue that still need to be clarified is the issue of quarantine. We still have not been able to clarify that the passengers on arrival will have to undergo the mandatory 14 days of quarantine, because if they are required to produce a negative test on arrival 3 days before their arrival in the country, we still need to clarify this quarantine issue. Is it still mandatory for people carrying the COVID-19 negative test, or will they be spared from undergoing the 14 days quarantine? So this is something that we will definitely clarify and come back to you with something really reliable and factual, because we do not want to relay any information that is not verified. And since we've not been able to access the right authorities to get the right answer, we are not going to go by the speculation, but we will just verify that information and get back to our followers with that fact. Okay. So the authorities have also inspected the airport, touring the airport to ensure that the airport is actually fully operational to be able to receive passengers on arrival for this tourist season. And all the stakeholders are also working to try and build confidence for all these passengers that are supposed to be coming, all these potential tourists, to convince them that the Gambia is safe to come. They are actually working on producing a video documentary, a sort of video documentary that will be shared with the public. And that video, the purpose of that video documentary is to really reassure the public, if I can put it that way, to reassure the public and tell them that it is safe to come to the Gambia. All the measures are going to be put in place to ensure that people are safe, despite the fact that COVID-19 remains a reality. Okay, so this is what we've been able to gather regarding the tourist season that is still maintained for the month of October. Okay, when it comes to flights, we also understand that some more flights are expected to be landing in the Gambia as the tourist season approaches. We have received information that the Gambia Experience flight will be operating. We begin operation starting from September 29, and we'll be having at least 3 flights per week. You also have the TIU Belgium that is expected to have 2 flights per week. You have the TIU Holland that is also expected to land in the Gambia twice a week. You also have Brussels Airline that has been landing in the Gambia so far, but they will be increasing their flights apparently to 3 flights per week. You also have Sky that is going to resume their flights to the Gambia, and it's going to be at least 3 flights per week. You also have Royal Air Maroc that is going to be landing in the Gambia and also expected to have at least 3 flights per week. So this is the news that we've gathered regarding the flights and the upcoming tourist season. Okay, so let me see what else do I have on my notes. You have, as the Gambia was under the state of public emergency that was lastly declared by the head of state, President Barrow, the public state of emergency has ended, and then a new state of emergency, a new state of public emergency has been announced yesterday by the President of the Republic, which means that it's going to be extended for an additional 21 days. So the country remains under the state of public emergency for an additional 21 days. I'm just going to go quickly over the details of that public state of emergency, because there's some few modification compared to the previous announcement regarding the measures linked to this state of emergency. There's some few modifications that have occurred. The government has announced them. So on the side of education, all schools remain closed. That's something that remain unchanged. It's been they've been closed for a couple of months now, and they will remain closed except for the grade 12 students that are supposed to be sitting their exams. So the schools will then be open from the 17th of August till the 7th of September, only for the grade 12 students that are sitting their exams, meaning that the administration of the schools will be allowed to operate for the grade 12 student, to allow the grade 12 student to sit their exams. So other than that, the schools remain closed. So I think that is clear to everybody until further notice, obviously. When it comes to the place of worship, the churches, mosques, they might be reopening, actually, according to these new changes that have been mentioned in this new public state of emergency announcement. The places of worship will be reopening, and the guidelines are that they will be open 15 minutes before scheduled congregational prayers and should be closed immediately after the end of the prayers, meaning that 15 minutes before each prayer, the mosques are allowed to be to open for the public, but then they will have to close down immediately after the prayer ends, okay? And the person in charge of the place of worship shall ensure the availability of hand cleansing and hygiene materials at the entrance of the premises to be used by all worshippers. So the person responsible in that mosque, in the particular mosque that is going to open, and throughout in all the mosques that are supposed to be opening throughout the country, or all the churches, has to ensure that the necessary equipments are in place to allow people in, meaning that a place where people can wash their hands, and also all necessary hygiene materials, if there's some hand sanitizers or whatever, is available to ensure the safety of the worshippers. All that should be accessible by the public, and immediately after the prayer, no, people are not allowed to remain in that place of worship, but people have to return back to at least leave the premises, okay? So that's for the place of worship. Now you have, yeah, it also says that the worshippers have to have a mask covering their mouth and nose, meaning that anybody going into a mosque or a church has to ensure that they are protected and that they protect other people as well, meaning that they need to have their face mask on during the prayers and then leave immediately after the prayers end. Okay, so if you want more details regarding all the measures that have been outlined by the authorities, please refer to the document that we have posted on our page. All the details are there. I'm just reading the headlines, the most important parts, and then you also have the remaining parts that I am not able to go through because it's quite a long document. But please, I just invite you to check that document and then go through all the different points that have been mentioned there, so that you get clarity on all the issues, okay? So the curfew remains the same. When it comes to the curfew, the time remains the same. It's from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. So during those hours, people are not allowed to be circulating around town. People should be in their houses, and we hope that people are going to really adhere to that and avoid getting in trouble. The authorities are circulating around town, patrolling to ensure that nobody is caught in the streets. So make sure that if you get the message, pass it on. Just remind people about the hours, because I know after some time people can get tired of these measures, but we need to really adhere, because the public state of emergency is conducted until a further 21 days. So people need to really continue adhering to all the measures that have been announced by the authorities to the best of their abilities, so as to avoid getting into trouble. And the fine for people caught in the street during the hours of the curfew remains the same, meaning that it remains at $5,000. A fine of $5,000 would be imposed on anyone caught in the streets during the hours of the curfew. And also the new amendment, or the additional information that is added to these measures, is that failure to pay these $5,000, the person that has defaulted in respecting the public state of emergency will have to be cleaning the public markets of the area where he has been found, I want to say, during a period of, let me check, during a period of 1 week. So if you are caught in the street during the hours of the curfew, meaning between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m., you will be fined a fine of $5,000. If you cannot be in the position to pay those $5,000, you will have to be cleaning the public markets for at least 1 week. And I'm sure that no one wants to be doing that, because that in itself must be a very tedious job. So I think that it's essential, it's very important to remind people to try and respect these measures as much as possible to avoid getting into any unnecessary trouble. So under the state of public emergency, all public gatherings remain prohibited, meaning that all these weddings, or all type of parties, or all the public gathering events that people might be interested in conducting cannot actually be conducted under this state of emergency. All form of public gathering has to remain is prohibited during this period. So people should also be informed of that we are still under the state of public emergency, and the figures, people might see that the figures are getting down. The number of COVID-19 positive cases are reducing in some of the reports that are coming from the health ministry, but that doesn't mean that people should relent in applying the preventive measures, and that doesn't mean that people should restart socializing or getting together. As long as it is not announced by the authorities formally, it remains prohibited, and people need to adhere to the strict measures that the government has put in place. Yeah, all the other measures that had been announced by the government regarding, for example, the wearing of face masks, it remains the same. The hours of operation of the markets, all that remains the same as it was. So it's clearly from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. for the public markets. For the face masks, in any public place, anywhere, people should be wearing a face mask. That remains compulsory, that remains mandatory. And people should constantly be reminded of that to avoid getting in trouble, because there's a fine of $1,000 for people who are found not wearing a mask in any public space. Okay, so much for the announcement. Yeah, there's the news of some public gathering that had been happening around Gunjur sometime last weekend, and those people, I believe, have been seriously addressed by the authorities, and even got in trouble. So I believe that people should not take any chance in trying to hold any public gathering, because it's strictly prohibited. So it's important to mention that. Let me go quickly through my notes to see what else I have to mention. I guess those are the news that I had for today. Yeah. Yes, this was the news that I had for today, and I will try and see if there's any question that I can answer. Selector Charles is still here with us. Thank you. Indeed, this quarantine has to be considered again. Some tourists will just want to come for a week, some 2 weeks. If they are quarantined for 14 days, I don't think it makes sense. Oh, definitely, Charles, I totally agree with you. I mean, we need to really clarify that issue, because it wouldn't make sense. As we know, most people coming from the West to the Gambia usually come for a period of 2 weeks. So if those 2 weeks should be spent in quarantine at a hotel designated by the authorities, because I think the authorities are going to produce the list of hotels from which passengers on arrival will have to choose from, and then spend their 2 weeks quarantine in there. But all that is something that we need to clarify, because this is the understanding that we had. But now that the tourist season has been formally announced to taking place in October, we'll need to verify all those information and hopefully try to have an authority take part to one of these live videos so that they can possibly clarify this issue and so many other questions that people have regarding this upcoming tourist season and all the arrangements that are being done by the authorities. Yeah. Okay, any other question? Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't think we have much questions tonight. And when it comes to the information that we needed to share with the public, this is exactly what I went through regarding the figures of the day, regarding the new regulation under the public state of emergency that has been announced since yesterday for a period of 21 days, and also the training that some of these hospital workers at the Serekunda hospital are going through in order to allow the Serekunda hospital to be turned into a treatment center in the near future, and so on and so forth. Yes. So far, this is the news that we had to present to you tonight, and I hope we will be able to be back on Sunday to do a review of the week and also probably invite a guest to answer more questions from the public. Okay, so I thank you so much for joining tonight, and I wish you all a good night.
dikluma xamal la ni jarna ko xibaar bi ma la andil COVID-19 mooy corona virus lépp la àdduna li ma jaaxal nag ci moom mooy xàmmeewul bu rek baatoo la tax docteur yi ci àdduna ñoom ñëpp jóg nañu ànd ak ñun ngir xeex leen ba jàngoro ji jóg fii ci suñu askan leen. Gambia Red Cross Society ñi tey ñoom yónni woon te ma xamal leen ne wéru askan wi moo leen tax a jóg. Àdduna wërngal képp la doon séentu suñuy vision suñuy yaakaar ñu wekkoon ko ci yow andi looñu lu dul COVID-19 yow 2020. dikluma xamal la ni jar na ko xibaar bi ma la andil COVID-19 mooy corona